Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So now that the NHL season is coming to a close with 14, 15, whatever games it may be for every single team in the NHL coming to the end of the season, there have been a lot of interesting stories in regards to the wildcard races on both sides when you look at the Eastern and the Western Conference. Now for this video, I will be focusing on just the Eastern Conference. I will talk about the Western Conference in another video, most likely up tomorrow, because obviously standings can change as soon as tonight with the games that are being played. But getting on to the Eastern Conference, there's been a lot that's been going on all throughout this NHL season with teams that have either been bumped up and out of the wildcard spot numerous times throughout the season. Others where it seemed like they didn't have much of a chance to make the wild card, and now they seem that they do. And others where you're left kind of surprised that they are still in the position that they are in. So let's get right into it. You start with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are currently first in the wild card spot in the Eastern Conference with 81 points through 70 games. That includes 33 wins, 22 losses, 15 overtime losses. Columbus has been a team where defensively they have been great all season long, but the goal scoring has not been there. Now you can look at what's the reasoning for that. Is that just the coaching style that John Tortorella has, because he's always been a defensive-minded coach, which has not been a problem. He is a Stanley Cup winner with the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 2004, I believe. And overall, he knows what it takes to win. But with this Columbus team especially, they've dealt with so many injuries this season, more than one team could ever imagine having. And that has been a huge factor into the type of season that they have had. And while they have fought adversity great, and they have won games recently, including a win last night, they still aren't really put together enough in my mind to make the playoffs. And I'm sorry to any Blue Jackets fans that see this. I just don't see how it's going to happen with the other teams in this wild card race. Right there breathing down their neck. And while Columbus is ahead by a couple points, they also don't have games on hand like all the other teams below them, upwards of 2 or 3 games more. So all these things factor in. But if you look at Columbus, in the last 10 games, they only have 3 regulation wins, and they have come recently though, and they are 3-3-4, with the 4 being the overtime losses in their last 10. They play 8 teams currently that are in a playoff spot for the remainder of the season. So that's a big problem for them too. And they have the 29th ranked offense in the NHL, averaging 2.57 goals per game, but they have the 4th ranked defense, which is fantastic, only allowing 2.67 goals allowed per game. So defensive front, great. Offensive front, not. So overall, I don't see Columbus making the playoffs. It'll kind of surprise me if they do, just because I don't know how much longer that their defense will be able to bail them out if they're not getting consistent goal scoring throughout the remainder of the season. And you also have to ask yourself, whether you're a Blue Jackets fan or not, if they make playoffs, how deep of a run can you expect for them with this type of offense? So, not to down any Blue Jackets fans, I don't have a problem with the Blue Jackets at all. They've always been a fun, great team to watch, and I hope that they have a great future, but it doesn't seem like that this will be the year for them. So if you get to the team in the second wildcard spot, you have the Carolina Hurricanes, who just jumped into a playoff spot after their win last night, over the Pittsburgh Penguins, winning 6-2. That was a massive win for them. And the Hurricanes were a team where, if they didn't have their goaltending woes, I would definitely say that there's no question they'll make playoffs and maybe even above wild card. Now, they're in a situation now where I'm feeling more likely that they will make playoffs as long as their goaltending can sustain. I know that at least Mrazek, I believe, should be back soon, if not Reimer. So if one of them comes back within the next game or two, because I know that Mrazek has been practicing, then that will be huge for them. That can really dictate if they make playoffs or not. They made plenty of moves at the trade deadline given the injuries that they've sustained with guys like, obviously, Dougie Hamilton earlier in the season, then Brett Pesce right before the trade deadline, which is really unfortunate. But overall, Carolina still has enough offense there, and their defense isn't terrible. Obviously, it isn't what it was earlier in the season, but I think that they can still get through it as long as they have the goaltending. So let me make that clear. I think Carolina has one of the best chances to make the playoffs out of all the teams in the wildcard race, but their goaltending needs to get healthy and healthy fast. So if they do and they are able to step up, then I think that they are in good hands. But if you look at Carolina, they have 79 points, that is second in the wild card, and 67 games played, so 3 on hand over the Blue Jackets. They have 37 wins, 25 losses, and 5 overtime losses. They are 4-4-2 in their last 10 games, and they play 8 playoff teams as well, currently in playoff spots for the remainder of the season. So that will be a tough task for them, but they aren't the only ones. Throughout all these teams in the race, they all play similar for the remainder of the season, in regards to the amount of teams that they play that are in the playoffs currently. And then you have their individual stats. They are currently 10th in offense in the NHL, which is very solid, at 3.24 goals per game. And they have the 9th ranked defense, which obviously goes in part to how they were playing when they were fully healthy, but still not bad at all, at 2.85 goals allowed per game. So overall, Carolina, it really comes down to their goaltending, in my opinion. If Mrazek gets healthy and really steps up for them, or Reimer, whoever it may be, throughout this last stretch of the season, then I think that they have a very, very strong chance of making it over some of these other teams that I'm going to discuss. And then next, you have the New York Islanders, who are currently sitting out of the playoff spot for the first time in who knows how long. And while the Isles are tied with their Carolina Hurricanes in points with 79 apiece, Carolina has a couple games of regulation wins on them, and that is the tiebreaker this season now. And making playoffs or not, if you were tied in points, regulation wins mean the most. So you have the Islanders, who in 67 games played have 35 wins, 23 losses, and 9 overtime losses. That's good for 79 points, like I said, and are sitting basically tied to be out of the wild card spot currently. And they only have 2 wins in their last 10 games. They are 2-5-3. And over the past month plus, they have not played great hockey at all. The goal scoring just has not been there, which has been a problem for them in years prior. And it's really showing. And while they did add in J.G. Pageau, who was an excellent acquisition, if I may add, I made a video on that previously at the deadline, so check it out if you haven't, along with the other ones, obviously. But regardless, Pageau has played fine for them. But overall, he still isn't enough yet to get them over that hump. And the goal scoring, like I said, just hasn't been there. And the Islanders are losing to teams that they really shouldn't be losing to, the most recent being the Ottawa Senators. So that really hurts them. And with the free fall that they have been on over the past month or so, especially, I just don't see how they make playoffs at this point. You have other teams that are rolling a lot faster, have better offense and not too terrible of a defense. So we'll see what happens. But unfortunately for the Islanders' sake, I don't see them making the playoffs. And they currently have the 22nd ranked offense in the NHL at 2.81 goals per game. But they have the 8th ranked defense, which is very solid per usual with this Islanders team. Kind of similar to the Blue Jackets, in my opinion. Very defensively minded group with not too many studs on offense. Yeah, you can say Matt Barzal, of course, but there really isn't any huge names that will single-handedly win you games night in and night out. And their defense averages 2.81 goals allowed per game, so pretty even in the offensive defense in regards to the goals at least. And they play 10 teams that are currently in the playoff spot for the remainder of the season. So that's going to be a huge task for them as well. They are starting an away trip tonight, I believe, in Canada. They're going to be playing the Canucks, the Oilers, and the Flames, I'm pretty sure. So that's going to be a huge task for them. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get over that hump. I know the Canucks haven't been playing well lately either, but one of them has to give in, right? So we'll see what happens. But for the Islanders, I honestly don't see them making the playoffs at this point. I think that they would really need to sweep this away trip and continue a winning streak. And I just don't think that offense has it in them like they did say earlier in the season. So, and then you have the team below the Islanders is my favorite team, obviously, the New York Rangers. Now, pushing bias aside, I do not see the Rangers making the playoffs like I did even a week and a half ago. I think that there still is a chance, but is increasingly less likely given their recent play and due to Chris Kreider being out the remainder of the year. Those are huge factors. Now, if you look at the Rangers, they have 76 points, so they are 3 points currently out of a wild card spot. In 68 games played, they have 36 wins, 28 losses, 4 overtime losses. They are 6-4 in their last 10, which looks good, but they've only won 1 in their last 4, which is not looking so good. So there's 2 perspectives to view it. And you look at them losing to the Devils the other night in a pretty bad fashion, and you can blame Igor Shesterkin, first game back since fracturing his rib. But the defense was horrendous on the Rangers front that game. Truly, they were all over the place. No one had their game at all, and they just did not dominate at all throughout that game, unfortunately for their sake. And while the Rangers still have a strong chance, they really need to get rolling, and they are on a away trip now as well. They're going to be playing teams like the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars coming up. So nothing is going to come easy for them, and they are another team that is going to be playing a lot of playoff teams currently in the NHL for the remainder of the season. They are at 10 currently as well, along with the New York Islanders. So they are both at tough tasks. It seems like whoever between those two teams really rolls more throughout their away trip seemingly has the better chance at making the playoffs. And with the Rangers, they are really tough. I think that they will go as far as their goaltending lets them. And I know that the defense has not been good, but at the same time, the goaltending is what has brought them this close to the playoffs, with the likes of Igor Shesterkin and Alexander Georgiev playing on his head when needed. So if you look at the Rangers, they are currently 7th in offense in the NHL, which is very solid at 3.35 goals per game. And I also want to add that this is the best scoring Rangers offense that they've had since their 1993-1994 Cup winning season. Now, I know that's a cool stat and all. It really doesn't mean much in regards to this season, unfortunately, but I just saw I throw that out there. And they have the 26th ranked defense, which is not looking good at all, averaging 3.19 goals allowed per game. So overall, my Rangers, unbiasedly, I just have to say that they need to get rolling. They need Shesterkin to obviously be healthy, and if he's not, then you have to go to Georgiev. And you need this defense to step up, and you need guys like Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad to continue to roll with this team. If they have an off night, it seems like the entire team has an off night, and you can't have that with a team that's trying to make playoffs. You need them all buying in. So hopefully for their sake they can make it, but I'm truly up in the air about them right now. It's just seemingly more and more likely that they are not going to make it given this away trip. It really worries me, but we'll see what happens, right? And then finally you have the Florida Panthers sitting with 76 points as well, but they have a couple regulation wins less than the New York Rangers, so that's why the Rangers are ahead. So the Panthers in 68 games played have 34 wins, 26 losses, 8 overtime losses, and they are 3 points out as well, as I mentioned. And they are 4-4-2 in their last 10, so not terrible. And they play 7 teams currently that are in the playoffs for the remainder of the year, which is interesting because if you look at all the other schedules, they seemingly have the easiest one if you're viewing it from teams that are currently in the playoff standpoint. So that's basically the biggest advantage the Panthers have going forward, but nothing is going to come easy. The Panthers did not address their goaltending or the defense at the trade deadline. Sergei Bobrovsky is not the goaltender that they signed for over $10 million a season, which is a huge problem. So because they didn't address that and the defense especially, I just don't see them making playoffs, unfortunately, for their sake. They had a very strong first half of the season. With the goaltending woes, they were still hitting on all cylinders on the offensive front. And I just don't see the Panthers getting in because of their defense and their goaltending just not winning them games when they need to. So you look at how they are team-wise, they are currently 6th in offense, which is great, at 3.37 goals per game, but they are 29th in the league, one of the worst in the league in regards to defense, averaging 3.34 goals allowed per game. So the Panthers, unfortunately for their sake, and I really want to see them do well, especially because their franchise is at stake at this point. They don't get the attendance that they deserve, especially earlier in the season when they were really playing better. They just aren't getting the funds in, and now there's become more speculation that due to this, and if the Panthers don't make playoffs, that big changes are going to happen from the ownership down, going into the offseason with moves that he possibly make for management or trading more players, keep pieces on the team. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think the Panthers are going to make playoffs because of their lackluster defense. But that's going to conclude this video. If you're a fan of either of these teams, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that they're going to make playoffs, not make playoffs, feeling unsure. Let me know what you think about my opinions as well. I really appreciate it. I'm just a hockey fan that does consistent NHL videos, all things hockey related that I feel should be given to you. So thank you all so much for watching, and I know I look ridiculous. I have this mustache going right now. If you've seen previous videos, please check them out. You know I have a beard. I messed up my beard earlier today, so I just had to shave it, and now I'm just dealing with this mustache right now. So yeah, I know it looks terrible, so in case you were wondering, that is why. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, all those great things, and I will be back in a day or two.